Hey guys, Reviewz here, with this review of Banjo-Kazooie, developed by Rare and released in 1998 for the Nintendo 64. Banjo-Kazooie is a platforming game featuring a honey bear named Banjo and a red bird named Kazooie, who lives in Banjo's backpack. Together, the two set out on a quest to rescue Banjo's sister Tutti, who has been kidnapped by the evil witch Gruntilda, who plans to use a machine to steal Tutti's beauty for herself. Despite being the first game in the franchise, Banjo himself made his debut a year earlier in Diddy Kong Racing. The game is set in Spiral Mountain, which acts as a hub from where the player must navigate through 9 open worlds to complete a number of challenges, such as solving puzzles, defeating enemies and fetching quests. To progress through the game, players have to collect jigsaw pieces, also known as jiggies and musical notes. Jiggies are needed to complete jigsaw puzzles that open up new levels, while musical notes give the player access to new areas of the overworld. Being an open-world platformer, the game features non-linear gameplay, meaning that players do not need to collect all the jigsaw pieces and notes from one level in order to move on to the next. Provided the player has enough of the necessary items, it is possible to skip some levels and progress to later stages. In certain situations, players need to speak to other non-playable characters to find ways of helping them, which can lead to rewards such as honeycombs that can be used to increase Banjo and Kazooie's health, and Jinjos, creatures that inhabit each level and play a crucial factor in the final battle of the game. Banjo and Kazooie can perform a number of basic moves like jumping, climbing, swimming and rolling, all of which can be learned from Bottles the Mole, who can be found at various points throughout the game's 9 levels, in addition to the hub world. Certain moves require additional items that deplete over time, such as red feathers, which are needed in order for Banjo and Kazooie to fly, and gold feathers, which grant the player invincibility for a limited time. Every now and then, Banjo and Kazooie are aided by the shaman Mumbo Jumbo, who can use his powers to transform the pair into other creatures, such as a termite, crocodile, or walrus. I like this feature in particular as it gave the player access to abilities that can't be gained otherwise in order to explore hard to reach areas, although you do need a set amount of Mumbo tokens in order to transform. This type of exploration rewards the player with items like jiggies, perfect for the person who wants to get 100% on this game. Yes, Banjo-Kazooie's gameplay is very similar to Super Mario 64, but calling it a clone would be unfair. There is more emphasis on exploration rather than platforming, and this contributes to the game's clever level design. The game's visuals are a real high point for the Nintendo 64, with bright colourful worlds and detailed textures on every surface and character model. Banjo and Kazooie have a unique, instantly recognisable look, proving once again that anthropomorphic animals make great mascots. Each world has its own theme, from the breezy resort feel of Treasure Trove Cove to the eerie and sinister Mad Monster Mansion. The game instantly immerses you into each level and its atmosphere. Additionally, Banjo-Kazooie has a long draw distance, which scales gradually, meaning that there is no pop-up or fog to disguise unloaded detail. It is easy to see how graphically, Banjo-Kazooie is a marked improvement from N64 titles of a few years back, where detail could be lacking. Music for the game was composed by Grant Kirkhope, who also wrote the music for GoldenEye 007, incidentally another title created by Rare. The main thing that stood out to me about the music is that the majority of it is a variation on the same melody to reflect the player's location. For example, when swimming underwater, the music changes to a harp arrangement of the main world theme to give a more aquatic feel. The music creates a level of interactivity that was unheard of at the time, as well as greatly enhancing the immersion level of each world. I thought it was funny that the banjo itself was a prominent instrument. You've got to love wordplay. There is no actual dialogue in the game, instead characters talk in garbled voices, a conscious decision by Rare, who believe that this would convey their personalities without talking, and you know what? This works. You can always tell Banjo's carefree attitude and Kazooie's frequent berating of her bear partner. This decision not to give the characters real speech means that the player has to use their imagination as to how these characters would act. This is a game that treats its audience intelligently. Development for Banjo-Kazooie began in 1995 for the Super Nintendo, under the project name Dream, and used Rare's advanced computer modelling graphics technology that had first been seen in Donkey Kong Country. Dream was originally going to be an adventure game starring a boy named Edison, who got involved with a bunch of pirates under a captain called Blackbeard. Rare eventually replaced Edison for being too generic, with at first a rabbit, then a bear called Banjo. When it became clear that the Super Nintendo was in its twilight years, development for the game was transferred to Nintendo's new console, the Nintendo 64. The game was solely to feature Banjo, but eventually Kazooie was designed to give Banjo more abilities and to form a partnership that would extend the game's appeal. Additional game modes and content were to be included, but but was cut back due to time constraints. One of these features was Stop and Swap, that would have allowed data transfer between Banjo-Kazooie and its later sequel Banjo-Tooie, an ambitious concept, one that can be seen today in the Mass Effect trilogy, with game data being transferred from one title to the next. Needless to say, Banjo-Kazooie was a huge critical and commercial success upon release, winning many plaudits, including 2 awards from the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences for Console Action Game of the Year and Outstanding Achievement in Arts Graphics. The sequel to Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, was released in 2000 for the Nintendo 64, along with a third main game, Banjo Nuts and Bolts, for the Xbox 360 in 2008. Banjo-Kazooie was also re-released for Xbox Live Arcade, also in 2008. Banjo-Kazooie is one of the best pure platforming games there have ever been. The game draws you into a spectacular adventure involving witches, bears and birds. It sounds crazy, but that's why it works. It's a great shame that Rare left Nintendo for Microsoft, as in my opinion, Rare created all of the best Nintendo games. If you haven't already played this game, then I would highly recommend that you do so, even if you're not into platforming games. You can't help but be charmed by this magical world. Banjo-Kazooie is an all-time classic. Enough said. Well, that brings us to the end of another review. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please comment, rate and subscribe, as that would mean a lot. Go to my Facebook page for regular updates, and until next time, peace out guys.